Okay, don't touch that dial. Okay, and welcome to the Hank Cisco Show. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is very important. Now the snow melted, and you want to get out and walk, it's very important when you want to get for health, you want to walk, but you want to make sure your ankles are in shape, okay? So my guest today is a surgeon, and we're going to talk about ankles, prevention, what the signs of, you got a problem, and we got a problem, check it out. And years ago, the doctor used to call it house call, but they don't come to your house now. But we're going to come into your house now through TV. So I want you to meet Dr. Muscarella. He's my foot doctor. Okay, I call him foot doctor. They got a big title. Dr. Muscarella.
Nice to see you.
Now, tell me, born and raised in Norristown. Tell me something about yourself.
Yes, I was born in Montgomery Hospital in Norristown. Went and attended Holy Savior School.
Right.
That's unfortunately closed at this point.
You were one of my safety patrols too, right?
I was one of your safety patrols in 7th grade. I wore the yellow badge Then I matriculated to Bishop Kenrick,
right,
which unfortunately is also closing.
Right.
Sign of the times, closing all the schools. Then after that, I went to Widener University in Chester, and then attended Temple University School of Podiatric Medicine.
Okay.
Performed the residency in surgery in foot and ankle, and here I am. Came back to Norristown.
Okay. Now, people don't realize now. I know myself. I've had 2 hip replacements. Dr. Paleo is the one. I've the one 8 years in between. 8 years. It's great. The knee. There's a knee. They had a knee operation. They have replacement for it.
Yes.
And I think the ankle was about the slowest one on any kind of changes. Now tell me about the ankle.
You're absolutely right.
Everybody knows we talk about hips. We talk about knees. Let's talk about the ankles.
There's been a big delay in refinement of the ankle implant. It just kept failing. Nothing would seem to work. The materials they used, they just didn't work well. Until recently, over the past 10 to 15 years, the instrumentation, the materials have progressed, and now we have an ankle replacement. Actually, we have one right here.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Well, let's talk a little bit about why people get ankle replacements.
Okay, well, why? What causes people to?
Everyone doesn't need an ankle replacement, of course. And there's less people that need ankle replacements than there are that need knee or hip replacements. So the numbers are much less.
Oh, okay.
But why would you need one? Well, one of the big categories is people who have fractured their ankle in the past. When you break your ankle, it is such a severe, when you break the few bones in the ankle, people develop arthritis in their ankle joint much sooner and very severe.
Right.
And there's not much to do unless you fuse the ankle, which means put all the bones together, or now we put a replacement in.
Okay, that's what you got, a replacement.
Well, this is a replacement here now. This is a copy or a model of one, and what's similar to the ankle, to the knee or the hip, is you just replace both sides of the joint with a little piece.
How about that?
Now these are plastic, but in real life it'll be metal.
Oh, metal.
Metal. This is just, again, a copy. So once both sides are replaced, these pieces, the joint moves nice and easy. Again, similar to the knee, the hip, and the shoulder. But another area where people may require this replacement are arthritis.
Oh, okay.
Just regular, everyday arthritis. People who work they're on their feet all the time. Hard workers, people who carry things, heavy material. They develop degeneration of their joint. It goes away.
And rubbing.
Rubbing constantly. The cartilage then just seems
bone.
Bone against bone. It goes. The cartilage tears and wears away, and it hurts.
Right. Right.
So until recently, there was not a lot to do. People lived in a lot of pain.
Right.
And again, now we have which is working well.
It's working good. Okay. Now, how about the rest of the foot?
Okay. Well, talking about let's talk about this for a second. One of the next areas, and you mentioned about prevention and about running. People about running nowadays. The most common injury of the ankle is when people sprain their ankle. How many times you hear people say, I twisted my ankle, I stepped in a hole, I was walking, I twisted it. I'll tell you they do this for many, many times over many years. Well, the ankle injury or ankle sprain is probably the most undertreated injury of all the leg, because they go to the emergency room, They say you got an ankle sprain. It's not a big deal because you know, it's not a broken bone. It's not, you're not bleeding to death. Put a little bandage on it and they send you out. But what happens is that there's some ligaments, which are little fibers that attach the bones. They usually tear.
Oh, rip.
Once they rip or tear, they heal with scar tissue. Then you go into the same position again. The scar tissue is not as strong as the original.
Oh,
it tears again.
Okay.
And then it builds more scar tissue. Then again. Then you get into this cycle where it goes over and over.
And mobility that don't.
Exactly, Hank. The people start to lose, they come in and tell me I have weak ankles. It's not really weak, it's that there's nothing holding them together.
Right. Nothing there.
So over that time, when they keep twisting their ankle, they tend to shear that cartilage inside.
Right.
They start to get a little arthritis. And if caught early enough, this is treated with either arthroscopic surgery, casting.
Now, you just hit on the point. You said early enough.
Yes.
What are some of the warnings? When should someone, say, well, I got to, is there a swelling? Does it turn black and blue? Or
Actually, it's a good point. If people are spraining their ankles, I tell my patients, if you're spraining your ankles 3 or more times a year, there's a problem. If you sprain or twist your ankle and the ankle swells a great deal or turns black and blue, that's a significant problem.
Okay.
There are warning signs. We have a problem.
Warning signs, right. And, well, the temporary, would the people say when somebody injured, it's hot pack, cold pack. What's the best?
Cold is still the best first 48 hours.
Oh, yeah?
When you you get swelling, ice it.
In other words, if it swells, ice.
Exactly.
Right?
Get them down as quickly as possible.
And then after a while?
After a while, then, heat is used to bring blood flow back in to help heal the tissue.
Okay. Now, we're moving down to the toes.
Okay.
All right. Now, I've always had problems with ingrown toenail, okay?
Most common thing people say.
When I was boxing, because when you're boxing, you step in with the left, your foot's boom, boom. And I was
pressure
in New York, I was boxing in New York, and but I developed this ingrown toenail because I'm always pushing,
Well, you push so much.
I've always had trouble with it.
You push so much that you've actually changed the growth pattern of the toenail,
Yeah,
so now it grows in an abnormal way.
Instead of the bone like this, it was going in.
Yes.
I couldn't believe it. And then when you come over and you took it, then you cut it, and I saw, what's going the wrong way?
It's going the wrong way. It's curled. It's like a C. They're painful. Now, I don't have to tell you, they get painful, but they also could be very serious.
Oh, yeah.
They're serious in our patients who have diabetes, patients who have poor circulation.
Right.
They get an ingrown toenail, they develop an infection, they can lose their leg.
And then you don't have no feeling there, and then you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
And it keeps developing, get worse.
And these are the people that unfortunately wind up having extensive amputations or significant surgeries.
Now, I say, let's start from the very beginning. Now summertime's here, the snow melted and everything. Now you're going to go to the beach. You're going to go to the Norristown Farm Park. You're going to walk and all. But it's very important to get the shoes to fit you.
That's correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
So let's start from the bottom up.
Okay.
What do you say? Now, you lecture at the Hanneman Hospital in Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So tell me what you're teaching. Teachers.
I teach residents there. I teach students, other doctors. The biggest thing you have to do when you first start any program, they always tell you, is start slowly. Okay, you have to condition yourself.
Right.
Stretching is important because, as you said, you're in ice and snow all year. You don't move around a lot.
Right.
You don't feel like moving. It's cold. So you stretch a little bit. When you get to shoe gear, there's a classic phrase I tell all my patients. Women don't believe it all the time, but I tell them all the time. If it doesn't feel good in the store, it's not going to feel good at home.
Right. But they look good.
But they look good, and they'll say, "I'll make this work later. I'll let this fit
I'll stretch it a little bit."
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it doesn't feel good in this, it won't feel good later. You really need to have a good fitting shoe, and you need to get the shoe that's appropriate for what you're doing.
Right.
For example, they got this great shoe. It's $120. It's a tennis shoe, but you want to do walking. Doesn't matter if they're going to give it to you for $30.
It's a difference in shoes.
Yes.
The way it's made.
The way it's made. Technology has expanded to such a degree that the people who design shoes design where the pressure is needed in the shoe or the sole.
Oh.
So a player who's moving side to side will need a certain amount of structure or strength on the side.
I often wondered about that because different
Exactly.
positions.
Now, runners is different. Now, runners need a lot of shock absorption in their heel because they're hitting so hard.
Yeah.
So if you look at a running shoe, the heel has the sole is real thick.
Well, a running shoe.
Running shoe, real thick to absorb the cushion. They have a.
Oh.
That's where Nike came out with a great idea years ago of Air, Nike Air.
Oh, yeah.
They put air pockets or edges inside the heel,
So
so
you're,
it's
you're
soft.
really hitting. Yeah, you're not hitting
That's
it
correct.
real hard. Boom, boom.
But I think if people wanted to do a little bit of everything, they have what they call a cross trainer, which is a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So you're not going to run a marathon in it, but you can play a little bit of light tennis. You can do some walking. You can do some different things.
Right. Yeah, you know, you put a point out that start slow. I know when I was boxing, when I went to New York and I had top manager, trainer, Charlie Goldman, and also Al Wheel, who was late of Rocky Marciano.
Oh.
And when you start working out for training for a fight, first thing you do, you shadow box, loosen up and everything. Then you do a little skipping the rope, and shadow box a little bit more, and then you'll hit the bag a little bit, and then you go into the regular boxing. But you don't just start slugging right off the bat,
Exactly. That sets up for injury.
Right,
That's how people get hurt, and it eliminates.
And then they had a sign. They had a sign inside the gym. He says, "You are here to train, not."
Very good. That's a good one.
I often see some of these guys running. They look half dead. I would tell them, sit down and rest.
It's funny. I have a very good friend of
You
mine.
can't do that.
Who's a cardiologist, so I keep trying to get him to run. And when I go to visit him up in State College, I always jog in the mornings.
Yeah.
And I always tell him, I said, Mike, come on and jog with me. He said, no, when I see the next person jogging, smiling and happy, then I'll jog.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
always
you're
look
right.
like they're always look like they're in pain.
miserable. Come on,
But it is a good feel.
just train, don't strain. Don't exert yourself.
That's correct.
You got to bob and weave.
Bob and weave is
bob
good.
and
We
weave,
do that in
slip and
martial
slide
arts
and
too.
all,
Bob and weave.
Okay, now, you've been practicing how long?
Since 1983.
In 1983. And then you had an office at the suburban hospital there for a while,
Yes,
right?
I was in Norristown for 15 years, and I had my own office. In 1998, I took a position in Cleveland at the Cleveland Clinic to become the chairman of the Department of Surgery.
Right.
So I started teaching full-time, but missed my Norristown. I came back in
Right.
2001.
Right on, right, Norristown.
Came back with the
Now
family.
get all my local doctors that were born and raised and educated in Norristown. Get them here.
Came
Norristown, right.
back, and I've been down here. I taught at Temple for a while, but now I left Temple 2 years ago, and I'm full-time in Norristown with my little teaching down at Hahnemann and
All right, now you're on DeKalb Street, right?
Yes.
And that's the same office with Dr. Domino?
Yeah, Melnick and Calamia.
I think that
used to be
house
Dr.
was
Natoli's old.
Dr. Natoli, right.
Whose house it was the old surgeon, Tronsoliti. Dr.
That's
Tronsoliti.
right, Tronsolini, right.
That
And
was-
next door was Mayor March.
Yes.
Yeah, the little house. He had the columns there.
So those who remember Norristown and especially Sacred Heart
You know,
Hospital,
I like to get all the Norristown born and raised doctors that are still around.
let's get us all together for a show.
Right,
Wouldn't that be
that
fun?
would be a real, because Norristown, we talk about, the perception of Norristown is supposed to be this and supposed to be that and all, but just like just the other day there, the Philadelphia Pretzel Factory come out with a cheesesteak pretzel, and he said they're going to give out the cheesesteak pretzels from 11 to 2. The place was packed. Within an hour and a half, they would get rid of almost 1,000.
Norristown has been a wonderful community. I have no regrets being born and raised here. I had a wonderful
Right.
childhood.
And we're working now to get a theater. If we get a theater,
I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, so we're working on it. We got a good staff of people working on it. Okay, now, how about bunions? Now, people. I know I got my bunion because I wanted shoes with a hard heel.
Yeah, funny you should say that. Most of my patients with bunions are women, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, I know why.
Well, part of it is genetic. There is some genes. You can say their mother, and they'll say, oh, my grandmother had it, etc. But I know where you're going to get at. They wear these beautiful tight shoes.
Right.
And now they don't usually cause the bunion, but they will aggravate it and make it worse. And that becomes a problem.
Well, my father, with Judge Sharika's father, he had a store on Main Street, and my mother used to buy the clothes there. And he only had certain shoes. They didn't have a big stock. So I liked these shoes with leather heels, and they were too tight, and I loved them, But I think that's I got my bunion.
Right,
you know?
press that way.
So I get.
We went to Chatlin's. My mom used to take Chatlin's. if you remember.
Chatlin's, yeah, there was tribal. Well, my father had a shoemaker shop on Main DeKalb Street, and the whole family worked there. You know, I shine shoes, and I used to finish the shoes. But I remember my father telling some of the women, you know, he would tell them, "Look, lady, these shoes are too tight for you. They're like at a point, you know." And
They didn't care, did they?
no, my God,
Looks good.
Yeah, they look good, but especially today. And also another thing was the fact that there were high heels. And the high heels throws your back out of whack.
Funny you mentioned when we talked about the ankle. When women wear high heels, the higher the heel, the weaker your ankle becomes. Because as your heel comes up, the ligaments on your ankle, it's easier to turn it over.
Oh.
So many of the injuries for the women on their ankle,
the further away it goes.
The higher they are, they happen to step down and they're easily turned over and they'll twist their ankle.
In other words, the less strength it has,
yes,
the higher it goes.
Lose their strength as they get.
I can use an example. When I was boxing, I was telling you always when you're going to box, keep your arm closest to your body.
Protect your wrist.
The further away your arm is, the less power you get.
That's correct.
And I would use that as an example. I said, all right, here's a bucket of water. I want you to pick this up. Pick it up. You'll pick it up when it's real close to your body. Now, if I put that bucket of water out there and try to pick it up, I lose it.
It's very hard.
So that's, in a way...
It makes sense.
Makes sense.
Keep it closer, yes. So, yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, watch them high heels.
We don't have to worry too much about what the men. Men get that we see
men
that.
Sometimes they want to look big, and they put inner soles inside, and then they had high heels and then inner soles. We had a policeman to do that. Yeah, he had a little problem with height.
He wanted to make sure he met the same.
He was always. So one time he was riding a motorcycle. We had to change. You know, we had boots. The next thing you know, he's taking all these things out from inside his shoes. They were all about that high, you know.
He sunk 6 inches, right?
I don't want to mention his name, but but he shrunk every time he'd take his shoes off, you know. But the most important thing is keeping your feet dry. What's something that can create problems too?
Oh, sure.
You have people come in with sores and all. What's the scoop on that?
Well, let's face it. I had office hours this morning. I had a couple of patients who come in who had, because of now it's getting warmer, it's getting, the temperature is hot, they're wearing maybe less cushions, they're wearing just a shoe without a sock.
Right.
And I had a couple of patients who had irritations or rubbing on their toes, had sores, had sheared the skin right off some of the toes themselves on the ankle area. Another thing at this time of year that we look at is the athlete's foot infections because of the heat, fungus infections.
Oh, well, what's it? Now, you got the athlete feet too. The athlete. What's the scoop on that now?
Well, athlete's foot is just a general term for fungus infection of the skin. It's got its name because
contagious too, right?
It can be contagious. Yes, absolutely, even in a family. Yeah. But that's where it got its name as athlete's foot, because it would go from a locker room because everyone would share the same showers and things. So yes, it can get contagious. And this is the time of year when it's getting warmer that we'll see that.
Yeah, I remember I went to Rittenhouse Junior High School. We used to take showers and all. And everybody, then they had a little pot over there, not a pot, but a basin, and you'd get in there, put your feet in there with something that was supposed to kill the germs for the whatever.
Well, the idea is that not everyone who has an athlete's foot infection is an athlete.
Yeah, well, that's true. but the keep it dry, keep them dry, right?
Keep them dry. You know, keep patients who perspire a lot. Although it may be inconvenient, I tell them to actually change their socks a couple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day.
If they sweat too.
To reduce the moisture, because moisture creates that environment for the fungus to grow, even bacteria at times.
I remember when I was working in the police department, we used to walk the beat, you know, and it was the high shoes. When I first started, we had to use high shoes, ankle high.
Oh, ankle high.
And I remember
they get
my
hot.
feet used to sweat, huh?
They get hot, and your feet get hot.
And my feet used to sweat. And then next thing you know, I used to take them off, and the odor. But I didn't, you know, I'd wash them and everything. But then I found that certain stockings, the material in that stocking was like making my feet. It was like an odor between the sock and making my feet. You know, I don't know. Is that some of the dye in the socks could be a problem?
Well, it's interesting. So people do get allergic reactions to some of the dyes and materials in socks.
Yeah.
Again, one of the unique things about the specialty that I am in, podiatric medicine and surgery, is that it encompasses a little bit of everything. So we see dermatitis, people who have skin problems, they could have an allergic reaction from the material sock, or even
the shoe, the leather.
Or the shoe and the leather,
Right.
Exactly. It goes into also, we look at pediatrics. I mean, in my specialty, I see kids. We do surgery, and we see injuries and trauma, and it just kind of encompasses all the different specialties in one area.
You know, I had, when I was walking the beat, and the doctor said, I use this inner sole. The shoes were a little too big, you know, for me. So I use a wool sock, and I use this inner sole. And I walked, and then I'd start midnight, and around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, my feet start, you know, aching like a little bit, and it was actually the rubber inner sole. I was allergic to that, you know, and I couldn't believe it, and I threw them away. You know,
well, now
it took me about a week to find
today
out.
There's so many synthetic materials that people. It's one of the first things you ask or question a patient is there anything new as far as from socks or shoes or materials that you place in your, because there's so many different types of materials now you could have an allergy to.
Right. That would be, you know, something. But do you find when somebody comes in and says, well, look, my ankles are swollen, is that an indication?
That could be an indication of a few things. Now, if a patient is more elderly, who's had a heart condition in the past, and they have both ankles very swollen, swollen to a point where the examination of pressing your fingertips in, and your fingertips actually go in deep, that could be a sign of early congestive heart failure, or heart backing up or failing. But other things are people who are on their feet a lot. I had a patient literally yesterday who stood all her life, who was a little heavy and put a lot of pressure on her veins in her pelvic area. Well, what they did is created swelling or fluid in her legs. They're flat out, can't come back up again. Right. So they get this we call venous stasis. The veins can't bring the blood back, so it stays in the legs, and that could be serious.
And it swells up.
It swells up, and it's like a balloon. You know, you blow a balloon up, and you get to a point where just one more breath, the balloon breaks.
Right.
Well, the same thing could happen to the calf when you fill with fluid. Gets to such a point where suddenly you can't go anymore, and the skin breaks open, and we get a sore.
You know, I don't know when, but I wasn't feeling too good or whatever. My eyes, I was getting a little blurry or something. I went to the eye doctor. So, he looked at my eyes, and he going like this. Says, you know, he says, you ever have any problem with high blood pressure? I'm not going to say this guy. I said, what did this guy look at my eyes? You tell me about my heart.
Sure.
You know? He could tell by my eyes that I had whatever it was, you know.
Everything manifests in other ways. And for example, in some ways, people who have a pulmonary or lung condition, their toenails actually change to a thickening and curling, where you can actually check.
Let me hear that again. What's that now?
But a pulmonary condition, some pulmonary conditions that you can actually diagnose by the appearance of their toenails become discolored, thickened, and a certain shape.
Oh my God.
Psoriasis, you know, people get skin condition psoriasis, can be picked up by looking at certain things within the toes, the nail structure, and even on x-ray on the bones, the joints. Right. So we're all connected.
Right. It's all connected. And that is, you know, something that people don't realize, you know, that if they get an ache or pain or something's different. It's not the same. When in doubt, check it out.
That's perfect. Let's face it, the patient comes in, maybe you have a sore on their foot. It's just not healing. Never heal. It's just not healing no matter what they do. They come in, probably one of the first things we think about in our specialty is you might be diabetic. You don't even know it because you're not healing. Right. And there's the first clue, maybe, the patient to go back to their internist. In other words,
he goes in for one thing and find out it's something else.
Well, that's what's causing the problem.
Okay, now, in this new office you got, how do you like this new office now? You're right there.
You know what? I'm right back.
Across from Sacred Heart Hospital. It used to be Sacred Heart.
I'm right back to where I started. I started on 1327 DeKalb, a block away.
1300 block.
1300 block.
Now you're in the 1400.
And now I'm in the 1400. So I used to, at that time when I started practice, it was a wonderful area. All 3 hospitals were open, and I could walk to Montgomery. I would walk over to Sacred Heart, jump in the car, and drive up to Suburban. They were all together. So, but I can still walk to Montgomery where I'm at.
Yeah.
Suburban's across the street, but
And
it's a county.
That's going to be a thing of the past maybe pretty soon. You think?
Yes. Well, not just think. It looks like
a lot of doctors don't want to be quoted or anything, but what do you think? What would be a good thing there if it's good? It's look like it's going to move.
I think probably it's going to move. They're going to have a new hospital up at the old Woody's Golf Course. And it's going to be a new regional hospital, very, very elaborate.
Right.
Probably it will be state of the art. You know, one of the things that surprised me when we went looking is that, you know, we go in a hospital now, you always worry. One of the things you not worry about, you think about who's going to be my roommate, right? Who they're going to put in a room with me? Or in the old days, they used to have wards.
I know. My brother and
I used to work at the VA hospital. They had a ward of 12. Exactly. Well, new ruling, federal government, any new hospitals built, all private rooms, all single rooms. Everyone's by yourself. Yeah. So that's going to be a big thing for the new hospital.
Yeah.
Because
then they scaled it down. There used to be 6, maybe in one room, sometimes more.
Yes.
The old Montgomery Hospital down, and now they did it. Then they had 2. Now they're down to the 1. Well, I think we covered a lot in this half hour, Doctor.
Oh, I think we did about everything too.
I just want to. I got an appointment with you Friday because my ingrown toenails bother me a little bit.
Can you hang out till Friday?
Right. Today is Tuesday. I'll be there Friday.
Good.
And so, Doctor, I want to thank you very much for coming here.
It's always a pleasure.
And I want to give you a little token of appreciation to put in your office to remind you that this day you were here, that this show is Comcast and Verizon. And so it's an internet too. If you got some friends in Italy or whatever, you want to call them up and tell them.
Well, I hope I do have some friends. I'm looking to see if I have any relatives over in Montella.
Oh yeah, you got to get Montella.
I'm going to go back there and see if anybody's there.
You're studying up on your Italian language too, right?
Right. So if anybody's looking for me, I'm at 1437 DeKalb Street.
Okay, and I will be there. Okay, Doctor, thank you very much.
Thank you much for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And you know, my show is helping people. Whether it's politics, whether it's health, whatever it may be. And then if you ever stop me on the street, talk to me, tell me, hey, I think we ought to do this. I think this would be a good show. I have people tell me now, and I want to know what we can do to help Norristown, get back to where we were. We are the county seat. We were the gateway to Valley Forge, and we've got a lot of good things here in Norristown. And so we're going to work together and get them done. So until we meet again, as they say in boxing, keep bobbing and weaving, okay? And keep on your feet on the floor, right? And keep your trunks off the canvas. Okay, thank you very much. God bless each and every one of you. God, salud.
Salud,